Hey, hello. You're stuck in traffic with like a few minutes riffing on IT and IT security. Today, looking at code level disaster recovery. When I had a dev team and we had an app, and the app was in financial services, and it was great. Everything ran fantastic until one day the network was slow. That's odd. And things timed out. That's odd. And then suddenly, the app had to be completely restarted because it didn't handle that exception well. And of course, now we moved everything into the cloud, right? Most apps are built on the cloud. But, if you think about it, every major like cookbook, every major example, any code snippets you're downloading off insert site here, they don't really have exception handling for that, right? They assume the API is up. They assume the mail system's up. They assume that the endpoint is up. So, tip for you, if you're running apps, we can push the infrastructure guys to do disaster recovery. We should. But we also have to figure out on our end what happens when it's unavailable and test that. What I oftentimes am seeing today is modules being written that do those calls, HTTP calls, mail calls, whatever it is. Modules will be written that do those calls in a safe and recoverable fashion, so that it retries it X number of times, it waits a few minutes, it returns an error code to the rest of the application, but the application can keep running. It doesn't just time out, right? So instead of using the textbook information to do things, use the text, send this API call goes to this other library tries it, returns, everything's fine. Library tries it, it's a little slow, it retries it again after a amount of time. Everything's fine. Tries it, doesn't get response, tries it, doesn't get response, after 3 or 4 times, whatever, it logs it and goes back to the main application. The main application can keep running because these tries are asynchronous. And I think that's important, right? So if you've got a situation where you're relying on this particular API, you write this code, take the API down and see what happens to your application, right? Make sure your application can keep running. Because otherwise, small little hiccups, even in a disaster recovery scenario where maybe it's down for an hour, right? Small little hiccups bubble up, create conditions in your application where major portions of the application then need to be took down and brought back up so that things can keep running. We need to start thinking about these core security concepts like encryption for confidentiality, right? Data protection for integrity, disaster recovery for availability. We need to start thinking about them at the code level, because when we're in the cloud, so much of these tasks will be performed by services and microservices. And by doing it that way, by thinking of these security concepts, primary security concepts at the code level, our code becomes more resilient, and then we can do cool things like Chaos Monkey. I still want my own Chaos Monkey. That's it for me. What do you think? Hit me up in comments. Social media, have you seen a time where you thought everything was good? One little hiccup brought everything down? We all have. Let me know your story. Cheers.